Hey everybody, welcome to the first ever August of Automation live stream. My name is Kara and I am the host here at Knowledge Work Nexus, which is the YouTube channel that I have all about working and living with technology and trying to do that work better. So I am hosting the first ever August of Automation. I'm writing a series over on Medium, and I will put the link to the first article in that series in the description below after today's live stream so that you'll be able to find that. But today I'm honestly just going to start to do a little bit of automation with you and show how to build out those automations as easily as possible, talk about some of the decisions that you have to make when you're going to automate something. And in fact, that's going to be one of the articles in the series next week. And I will probably refer folks for that article back to this video based on what I have planned today. So the two things that I have planned today to automate are to do some automation of some callouts in Obsidian. Obsidian is a note-taking app that I love to use, and I want to walk you through how to automate the process of creating the different kinds of callouts. And it's a great example because there are so many different approaches you could take to it, and that's one of the things I want to talk about. And then we're probably going to wrap up today in looking at a couple of mail automations that are on my list of things to automate. These are very simple and they're a great starting point for somebody in automation. In this first one with the Obsidian callouts, we'll get into a little bit more of the complexity, but in that mail one, it'll be quite simple. After the live stream, I'll add some things in the description below about some of the different aspects of how you do that and some of the decisions and things like that. So you can see we've had somebody join. Welcome. Thank you. I was completely prepared to talk to myself today, and that is okay. But we're going to dive in here, and I'm going to do my first, hopefully, screen sharing. If you do have questions while you're watching, please pop those in the chat. And if you're watching after, please put them in the comments below, and I will be happy to try to address those. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. And we're going to do window. We're going to start with this slide. All right. So hopefully you are seeing a slide here about automation methods. And that's why I really like this first example that we're going to do, because I'm going to walk you through. Let's see, I have five potential options for this particular automation of creating callouts to share with you. So you can see that I've already started to think through my automation toolbox. Again, since we're new in this series, if you are just coming into the article and the video series, I'll have an article on tools for you on Monday, so be sure to check that out. Then we want to think about, what is it I want to do with this automation? How does it need to work for me? What tools could help me achieve that goal? And then which one of those is going to work best for my brain and for the way I think and work the best? I also want to introduce you to something. If you're brand new to automation, welcome. It's a fun place to hang out. The automation cycle is something I think when you embark on automation, you need to think about, because automation can't just be a one and done thing. You are quite often having to iterate and improve or redo automations that you've already done. And I have some home automation here. I've been in this particular house for almost a year now. And when I compare where I was automation wise in my previous house to where I am here, I'm nowhere near where I want to be yet. I don't have all of the automation set up. And part of that is because I now live with a housemate, and I'm having to figure out, how do I make things work in a way that works well for both of us? So as your circumstances change, and then as the tools and technology change, you may have to change the way you automate something. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into our automation. So if you're not familiar with Obsidian, let me introduce you to that first and what callouts do. And then we will talk through sort of how Obsidian works and what we can do in callouts here. So I'm just going to put a callout into my daily note today. So the basic structure of a callout is a right pointer. It's the greater than sign. My mathematical brain cannot think of a way to do that. Then you put a single bracket, an exclamation mark, and then there are a number of different ways you could title it. You could start with note. And if I do that and then type something, this is a note, and then hit return a couple of times, you'll see it adds this color. It adds the little pencil icon here, and then the word note. I can also customize that with a title, important information. And what it will do is it will add that as a title for me. So it's a little bit more bold. It stands out just a little bit better. And you'll see that this note is always what we call expanded. If I would rather that this note not be expanded, I could add a minus sign right here. And then I have to click on it to see it. So it gives you a lot of customization that you can do within your Obsidian notes in order to work with them. So I really like this option. But let's look at what happens when you change just this word in here. So we're just going to change it to quote. And we're going to remove this title, and I'm going to let it be open all the way. Notice now it's a slightly different color. It has a little icon here. I can also add one for to do. Again, it changed the color back to the blue color, adds a little check mark here. Another popular one is warning. Go. So that puts a little warning sign in front. So as you think about it, if you're using a note-taking app like Obsidian, there are a lot of different uses you might have for this particular type of structure, but you might not want to think about it in terms of like trying to remember all of those. And the syntax to type this out is actually quite a bit of syntax to have to deal with every day to remember, okay, I've got to put the little caret and then the bracket and then the exclamation mark. So we want to speed that up if at all possible. So as I was thinking about this, I'm going to share a different app where I've got some notes at. So let me share my giraffes screen here. Let me close all this off so you're not distracted by that. There we go. So as I think about my options here, I could do something simple with a text expander tool and our text expansion tool, and I use one called Text Expander. I could use a pretty complex text expander snippet, which is actually what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you that, and I'm going to show you templater. I could also use an app called Keyboard Maestro. My friend Brian, who might be the person watching this, he said he might try to be on here, is exceptionally good with Keyboard Maestro. He's actually written a Keyboard Maestro palette for this specific task, which is one of the reasons it was in my automation list. I was like, I like what Brian did. I don't know if it works for my brain, but I want to try this. And then there's actually some tools in Obsidian that will do this as well. So we're going to look at 3 or 4 of these just to see what the different options are for this and see some of the benefits and the downfalls of that. So we're going to start with Text Expander. I'm going to open that up and bring that onto the screen here so that you can see it. And I'm going to do my very best throughout this to show you my messy workspace. I am not always the neatest, cleanest worker. And here's a great example of that as we jump straight into Obsidian. You'll see up here, I started to put these little app text expansions together, but I also have this rando Obsidian folder down here. Now, I actually don't use really any of these anymore, so I'm most likely going to delete all of these. This was a long time ago in Obsidian, and it just doesn't really work the way I work anymore. Although I do wonder about this move file one. We might play around with that one. So I'm not going to delete these yet, but if I wanted to go ahead and keep this one and move it around, these groups here in Obsidian or in Text Expander are great for organizing your expansions so that you can find them easily. So let's go ahead and move this one over there. So I'm just going to drag it over to my app Obsidian and drop it. And what's this one do? This creates a new file. Okay, we'll move that over too. I don't know if I want to keep it, but we'll move it over there. I know I want to delete all the rest of these. So I'm just going to click on them. Never tried to do a multi-delete. Yes, I can. Delete snippets. Yes, I want to delete all 27 of these. And then I'm going to delete this group. So it just keeps, there we go. And I'm just right clicking on it to delete that group. Just keeps things clean. And that's part of what I'm going to do during this whole month of automation is try to clean up some things, make sure my comments are good, and that my own documentation to myself looks really good so that I can follow something. And as we go back and look at those two that I moved over here, that move file and new file, I kind of know what this does, but not completely. And adding some notes to that might be really helpful. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we would build an Obsidian callout. Before I do that, I'm going to actually introduce you to just the structure in Text Expander. So in Text Expander, when you create a new group, so let's create a August of automation group here. And this would take anything that I built in this group, put it together. I could add notes here. So I could add documentation, great place for comments and documentation. And I could even decide if I only want this to expand in certain applications. And that would be great because, for instance, like I mentioned, we're going to do some in Mail. Maybe I only want these to work in Mail. And this is something that Keyboard Maestro also does particularly well. And I'll talk in a minute why maybe Text Expander over Keyboard Maestro. So if I wanted this to work in all applications or in only these applications, expand in only these applications. Y'all are watching me click it and it's not working. There we go. Okay, so then it pulls up a list of the applications on my computer, and I'm going to say I only want this to work in Obsidian. And then I'm going to give it a group prefix, which is OBS. And that means that any automation I put in this folder, and I'm going to use the semicolon, will have the OBS prefix in front of it. Okay, so that's how that would work here. So let's do those same things because I want to only create this, delete this group. I want to do this only on my Obsidian app. So we're going to come in here and we're going to add some comments. So these are text expansions that will run only in Obsidian as expand in below is selected, and Obsidian is the only app they will work in. And the reason for that is if you are setting up some keyboard shortcuts for something and you might be mirroring keyboard shortcuts, only these applications, I want that one. It really does not like that option. There we go. If you're setting up some keyboard shortcuts for an app and maybe you're mirroring keyboard shortcuts that you use in another app and you only want them to fire when you're in this particular app, that's a reason why to do this. And then I want to change this group prefix down here to OBS because honestly, I type it wrong for myself on a regular basis. So this will be more the way I work for Obsidian. All right, so we're going to come over here, and these are all of the different Obsidian callout or Obsidian text expansions that I have available to me right now. So we're going to create a basic one. So I'm going to go to this empty one, and I'm going to delete it. And we're going to start over here. We're going to add a new one. So now we have an empty one, and I want to create a callout. So I'm just going to create that same syntax that we had before, and I'm going to leave that. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to give it a label. So the label is what is going to show up in this column over here on the left. So I'm going to do call out note. And then I'm going to move this so I can see it. There we go. And then I'm going to give it the abbreviation. And the abbreviation is the text code that you will type. It's the thing you have to remember in order to get that to fire. So basically it added it right here. And if I, here in a minute, type OBS semicolon note, it will add this syntax into my Obsidian note. So let's try that. And we'll stop sharing here for a second. And we will share Obsidian again. All right, and so if we come down here, OBS semicolon note, there we go. You heard it fire and it ran that. And then I can add my text here. Automation is fun. And hit enter a couple of times. There we go. There's our note. So I could do that same thing. Let's bring Text Expander back up here. I could do that same thing multiple times. So let's just show another sort of baby automation, the simple things that make your life easier. And I'm going to duplicate this specific automation. And instead of calling it call out note now, we're going to make this one call out quote. Oops, I hit that. And I'm going to call it quote down here. And I'm going to call it quote here. Okay. So now if we go back over to Obsidian, and I do Obsidian quote, there we go, it fired. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. Okay, and so there is a quote that we have pulled out. So very easy to do. We've made that happen. But if I look back at my list of all of the different options that we have for call outs in Obsidian, in Obsidian, there are a lot. And I don't want to have to remember those words. That's part of the reason I don't like this format right now, is because it doesn't work for me. So I want to show you a more complex way to approach the text expander, but it actually works quite well. So let's pull Text Expander back up here. And let's go ahead and we're gonna delete these two, because we're gonna do this a different way. You wouldn't have to delete yours. I just am, because I know I want to use part of it again. There we go. And we're gonna create a new one. And this time, what we're going to do is we're going to use a function of the snippet builder that lets you choose from a menu. So let me give you just a little tour around the text expander window in case you haven't seen it before, so that you can see some of the other options you have here. So first of all, you can choose the type of text that you're using: plain text, formatted text and pictures, shell script, AppleScript, and JavaScript. So it has quite a bit of functionality there. And then you have some options here with these little menu items. So you can work with time, dates, time, date and time math, various keyboard elements, including the clipboard, and using another snippet inside of a snippet, which I use regularly. I'll show you one of those in a minute, because they're really helpful, and I'll show you why they could be really valuable to you. Sort of helping it figure out, where do I put the cursor next for you, so that you can use that. And then this is the window we're going to use, where you want to either select something or fill in text. And I use a lot of these as well. And this last option puts in more tabs and non-breaking spaces. So it's kind of like the keyboard option, but with a couple of different elements. So we are going to choose this pop-up menu as our first item. So what we want to have happen is we want, when we fire that keyboard command, the OBS : I'm going to do call, or semicolon call, we want it to ask us, what kind of call out do you want? And do you want it to be expanded or not? So those are the two things that I'm going to put into menus. So I'm going to choose my pop-out menu here. What type of call out do you want? The other reason that I like this particular format for this is that it is kind of allowing me to comment within my text expander snippet. And there's not another way that I'm aware of, and I will admit that I have not looked this up in the help. So we might do that in a second to see if there's a way to comment these better. This is a nice way to comment what I'm doing too. And then you're just going to add each one of your pop out options, and I can add as many as I want here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 13 of them. I'm going to do like 5 for right now. I'll go back and do the rest of them later, but I just want you to see how this works. So I want it to be note, and then abstract, and then info, and then to do, and then tip. You can choose, as you can see here, you can choose which one you want selected by default. So I want note to be selected by default. It is the one I use most often. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and you can see that it adds a little thing there. What type of callout do you want? And if I wanted to edit that, I could just double click on it. It'll bring it back up so that I could edit that. So if I do choose to add in the other 8 that are on my list, I can do that. And then I want to add a second one of those. I'm going to place my cursor right here. I'm going to add a second pop-up menu. Do you want to close it? I'm going to put the minus there, or open it. And I'm going to put the plus in parentheses there as a little note to myself. So I'm going to do plus and minus. Minus is actually my default. So I'm going to do OK. And then I'm going to hit enter here, and I'm going to put in a line of text and a note that that's where I want my cursor to be. So typically I don't find that you have to tell it where to put the cursor. It will put the cursor in the last place it was after you fired the note. If that for some reason doesn't work, then we'll keep troubleshooting, but that seems to work. So this is going to be call out selection. And the keyboard for this is going to be call. All right, there you go. I'll pull this to your attention, call this to your attention. This is something that happens whenever you have keyboard expansions that have similar characters in them. They'll darken them so that you can see that you're not creating all of these different text expansions, and you don't actually put the same keyboard command over it. All right, so we've got that there, and now we're going to test it out in Obsidian. So I'm going to come over here to Obsidian. And let's give that a try. So we're doing OBS semicolon call. And so what you just saw there, if you saw it, is that I have a separate Obsidian extension. Let's look that up here. Hang on one second. Pull text expander back up. I didn't read my warning. So I have an Obsidian extension for calendar. Where is that? Not seeing it in there. All right, but we're going to give this a different name. We're going to call this out. There we go. So that one will not fire something else when I do it. All right, so let's try this in. And thank you. I see we have a second person that's joined us, so thank you for joining. If you have questions, please do feel free to put those in the chat. I'm happy to try to address those. So we're going to do call out. Oops, OBS and out. There we go. So this little menu pops up. I hope you can see that. And it asks me, I wonder if you can. If you can see that in the chat, if you tell me, that would be great. But it's asking me to select the type of call out that I want. And I'm actually going to do an info one. And then it's giving me, do I want the plus or minus? And then I just hit OK. And that filled that in for me. This is a call out that is not expanded. So then I can enter. And now to open this call out, I have to hit my little down arrow. Okay, so first of all, we've quickly automated. We've gone from something that would have taken us, let's go back to text expander here. As you can see, I had actually started doing this. If I had kept doing this, I would have had to have had a different text snippet for every single call out type and whether I wanted them collapsed or expanded. And now with just one snippet, I've been able to do all of that, and then I don't have to remember anything. I just have to remember OBS semicolon out, and that will let me select all of my text expander snippets, which is a great option. So I'm actually going to delete these because I no longer need them, which is always nice, keeping this cleaned up, because these were old ones. And then I had another basic call out. There we go. So much easier to do that with my selection call out. And I will keep building that out. That'll be one that I'll share later on in the series as I get to sharing some of the very specific automations. So you do the same thing in Keyboard Maestro. I'm not going to recreate this in Keyboard Maestro because I don't want this to get too terribly long. But I am going to show you the Keyboard Maestro interface for just a second. Let me go ahead and start sharing here. My Obsidian group open. There we go. I promise later in the series we will do a couple of Keyboard Maestro expansions. But you can notice here is my Obsidian group for Keyboard Maestro. So just like with how we could select at the beginning of setting a group for text expander, we could decide whether or not we wanted it to have fire only in specific applications. You can do the same thing in Keyboard Maestro. You use folders or groups to do that. Within the group, you can create different macros to do different things. You have a ton. This is where Keyboard Maestro completely beats completely beats Text Expander. When I want to add let's add a new macro. This is a demo macro to it. I also get a lot more options of how I can trigger it in addition to just keyboard commands. And I'll show you my whole desktop here in a minute. And you can see a couple of Keyboard Maestro conflict palettes that I have. This is where it beats Text Expander. When I click new action here, there are so many more actions that you have available. You can just do so much more with Keyboard Maestro. So I really would like to continue to move more and more of my things out of Text Expander and over to Keyboard Maestro. The one downfall of that is Keyboard Maestro only works on the Mac OS, where Text Expander does work somewhat on iOS devices as well. There are some limitations, but it works pretty well on iOS. So in as much as I do try to do things on my phone and my iPad from time to time, there might be situations where I don't want to use Keyboard Maestro. And so I will talk in the article on the toolbox that'll come out on Monday in this series. I do think Text Expander is overpriced for what it is. It's an annual subscription. It hasn't gotten really any more powerful or any more features in years. Keyboard Maestro gets new features pretty regularly. The developer is great and is just amazing to work with, as a lot of small Mac developers and iOS developers are. So I would rather move everything to Keyboard Maestro, but there are some limitations to it, which we'll talk about more in this series. So that's Keyboard Maestro. If I do choose to build out the call outs in Keyboard Maestro, I will show that to you at some point in the future. Until then, let's go ahead and take a look at how we can do it in Obsidian itself. So if we go into Obsidian, there we go. One of my absolute favorite Obsidian features, and I'm going to delete all of our little tests here just because it's getting very, very clunky. I don't want to actually delete my bullet there. There we go. All right, so let's delete those to keep that cleaner. I want to go ahead and show you templates in Obsidian. Templates in Obsidian are one of my favorite features because you can use them for so many things. So this note that we're looking at, which is my daily note, is a template. And if we go into my templates folder here, you can see I have a boatload of templates. So I love templates. I use them for all sorts of things. I'm constantly iterating and updating my templates. But we're going to go ahead and create a template for callouts in Obsidian, just to show you what that would look like. So let's go ahead and create a new note in our templates folder. That's how you create a template in Obsidian. It's super simple. And I'm going to call these callout, and this one's going to be note. And so I'm going to just grab my text over here. And I'm going to go ahead and, oops, I'm going to go ahead and let this one be expanded, just because that is generally my preference. Okay, so there is our note. And let's go ahead and stick it into our daily note. So to add a template into a note in Obsidian, you just fire off the command palette, which is Command P on Mac, Control P on Windows. And we can do templater, go. And then I can just, with keyboard, do call out and note, and there it adds that right in. And then I can go ahead and add my text. There we go. So very, very simple to do that. I could do that for multiple types of callouts. So let's go back over here to my callout note. Let's right click this note and duplicate it. Make a copy of it. There we go. I forgot my language there. And this is going to be callout abstract. Do the same thing here. Go. There we go. I think putting that text in there will do that. And we'll go back here to our daily note, and we'll add this call out in here. Huh. I added a new note. I don't think I told it to do that. That's very odd. Let's go back. Yeah, I did not tell it to do that. You may get to watch me troubleshoot here. Okay, there, it worked that time. I don't know why it created a new note the last time. Something weird. So I can come in here and I can type my text. This is the abstract. There we go. And there is our call out. We can smush it if we want to. It'll reopen every time you start it. So very, very simple to create those templates. You'll notice here, I do have the same problem. If I look over at my templates right here, I'm going to have that same challenge I had with the simple version of the callouts in Text Expander. I would have to create a separate note for every one of them. And if I wanted to have one with it expanded and one with it unexpanded, I'd have to create 26 versions of that template. Number one, that's just clunky. So I don't love that option. Number two, not only is it clunky, but if Obsidian ever changed the syntax they used for callouts, I think that's not a high probability. But if they did, that would also be annoying because I'd probably have to go back and edit all 26 of those notes. So there are a lot of things to think about as you create automations of, do I really want to maintain this in this way? So for me, I am probably going to stick with that text expander option where I can easily just type out OBS out and get my little menu to fire here, choose my type of note. We'll do a to-do this time, make it expanded, click OK, and there it is. This is a to-do. Because that is just, it's just cleaner, it's a nicer option, and it's easier to maintain. I think I could probably do the same thing in Text Expander or in Keyboard Maestro if I wanted to. But this, putting it in Text Expander would make it available on my iPad and my phone as well, which is beneficial. The Obsidian template option would also do that. With Obsidian, because I know a lot of Obsidian users do follow my channel, I'm going to delete this weird untitled that just got created for no good reason. I do want to just quickly note that there is an Obsidian community plugin for this. If we come down here to our options and go to community plugins and we browse, you just start typing call. There is one called Callout Manager, and you can install it and enable it. I love its options. I don't love the execution of it. And I'm not a programmer, so I do not say that in any way to smear the developer. What they've done is great. There are some things that it gives you that you don't get any other way. And one of those is that you can turn on what's called callout detection. And when you do that, when you go to manage callouts, you can see all of the callouts and sort of how they look based on all of the different themes you have, any CSS snippets you have. So like I have the Canvas Candy snippet from TFT Hacker, who is amazing. I have it installed and there are call outs from it. I can see all of those. And I can also customize those. So if I want to customize the danger one, I can come down here and maybe I want danger to be yellow. There we go. And instead of that icon, I want it to be the alert icon. That's just terrible. Let's do something a little darker because I can't see that. Let's actually go to a standard color. Let's try that yellow. There we go. That's a little bit better. So you can also edit your callouts with Callout Manager. So it's a good thing to have Callout Manager installed. I do like it for really customizing and editing. And what Callout Manager allows you to do, if we go to our command palette and we now type in callout, you'll see that there's an option to insert a callout. And it does, it inserts the callout, it puts the text there so that you can sort of think, okay, do I need to change this? So let's make this one, we just edited warning. So let's edit warning, and we'll do warning, use caution. And then when we put that in there, it looks nice. That's not the color I chose though. That's interesting. I'll have to keep playing with that a little bit. There are two different versions of callouts. One is theme-based and one is default-based. So I may not have edited both of them to be the same. Let me just show you that instead of talking about it. So we edited, let's see. We edited warning. Maybe we did not. Let's change that to yellow. There we go. And let's see if that changes it. Yes, that changed it. There we go. So I was just using a different call out than the one I had edited. Okay. So let me go ahead and stop sharing here and just wrap up on that one before we go to the one thing I want to do in Mail, just to show you a little bit of Keyboard Maestro, because I want to get better at Keyboard Maestro this month, and part of my goal is to learn in public. So I will fail before you as well as I will hopefully succeed before you. But hopefully that helped you get some idea of a few of the different options you have when you try to automate something. When we think about the Mac and the iOS and the Apple ecosystem, we have a load of different tools for text expansion. Again, I'll be talking about just a roundup of all of those in an article on Monday. And we'll be looking at those in these Friday sessions throughout the month. But the tools give you tons of options and tons of ways to do things. And so you sometimes have to think through what's the best option for me, the way I work, my circumstances, the way I think, those sorts of things. So I hope that helped you get a little bit of an idea of what that might look like. So with this one, we are actually going to do a little bit of automation of email using Keyboard Maestro. And I'm going to come back here to Keyboard Maestro. There we go. All right, awesome. And I'm going to close the actions window so that we're back to our main function. And I'm going to delete this macro because that was just my demo that I was playing with. So we're going to look at our mail options here. And you can see that I have just a couple of things in my palette. So to give you an example, I've mentioned Brian, my friend who has forgotten more about Keyboard Maestro than I probably will ever know about it. But these are just a few of the Keyboard Maestro actions and macros that Brian has sent to me over the years. I keep them in a group so that I can refer back to them and learn from them. I have not yet figured out necessarily how to do all the things that Brian has done or made them work on my computer. So hopefully through this series, I will continue to implement some of his, because on my list of automations that I might want to explore, I have a lot of try Brian's lists in there. So I'm going to show you just two of them that I have. And I want to talk to you again about, remember at the beginning when we were looking at that slide, we talked about you want to sort of figure out what the goal is. And one of the things for me about mail is that I am very, very fast at Gmail. Gmail has keyboard shortcuts for delete, archive, and move that are exceptional. But more often than not, I find myself in mail because it connects better to a lot of other tools as I've explored that. And that's part of what I'm going to explore in automation, because getting fast at mail and staying fast at mail and staying efficient with mail so that you're not in mail and you're actually doing the work is one of the biggest battles of modern productivity, in my opinion. So I want to try to keep those keyboard shortcuts the same across platforms if possible. And so I've written a couple of macros here that for Keyboard Maestro for mail that help me start to do that. So you'll notice here that this is my mail group. It will only work in mail. I do have what's called a palette. So I have a palette that will come up that will show these entries, and I'll show that to you a bit later as we test these out. So I have one that will delete a message, and deleting a message, you might be like, Kara, it's just the delete key. It's not hard. You're correct. That's true. But I'm so fast with it in Google that Shift-3 is a better option for me. So what I've done is I've written a macro that if I press Shift-3 in mail, which is the same thing as the Gmail shortcut, it will type the delete keystroke for me. So let me just show you what that looks like. Okay, so right here, so I'm just going to type Shift-3 on my keyboard. It deleted that message. Shift-3, Shift-3. I can go through so fast and delete my messages, and I don't have to take my fingers off of the keyboard. So I don't know if you saw that. I think you didn't. I think I didn't share my screen first. Let me do that. Hang on. Sorry about that. Let's do screen 2. And actually, I just got an email that I cannot risk sharing on a live stream. So I'm not going to do that. I will do that off screen. Let me make sure I move that so that it is not shared. And move up here. Okay, there we go. Now I'm safe. All right, so now I'm going to share that. This is not a problem I typically have, but every once in a while I'm working on a project that I can't reveal. Quit. Now will it let me share my mail? No. Interesting. Why is it not letting me share mail? It's very weird. Hang on. A little technical difficulty. I'm glad that in the live stream I've only had one. There it is. Okay, here we go. So now I'm sharing my mailbox without anything that will get me in trouble if I happen to show it on here. And so if I come into this email and I want to delete it, I can just go to my keyboard, Shift-3. I'm going to go here, Shift-3, Shift-3. So all of these things that I don't want to read, I can now go through just as quickly as possible and delete them. So, and it works the same way in Gmail. So my brain doesn't have to go, where am I reading my mail today? And what do I have to do? Which is another reason for doing keyboard shortcuts. So one of the things that we're going to try to do is to duplicate another Gmail feature, which is add to archive. And add to archive is one of my favorite features on Gmail. It's the Y. So instead of deleting it, I do actually want to save it. I just want to save it to the archive because I'll search to find it. I don't put things in folders very often. I do wish it was easier on mail, and it's one of my goals during this month. So let's go ahead and pull up the Keyboard Maestro and let's watch how we would do this one. So we already demonstrated. I need to share Keyboard Maestro with you before I bring it up. One moment. Here we go. So I already demonstrated in Text Expander the value of simply duplicating a macro that already does the same thing. So we're going to do basically the same thing with this delete message that we're going to do with archive. So I'm going to right click it and I'm going to duplicate this message. And this is going to be archive message. Okay. I can also, in Keyboard Maestro, I can give these different images. So if I just click here on this, double click, there we go. Double click on this, a little icon chooser will come up on my screen. I don't know if you cannot see that. I apologize that you're not seeing that. Please trust me for a moment that there is an archive chooser here. And I'm going to choose a file icon. There we go, and close that. And so you can see that that icon did change if you're watching that. So magically it changed. And the hotkey that I want here is a Y. And if the Y is pressed, what is going to happen is slightly different, which is the add to archive option. And the keyboard shortcut for that in Mail, I'm looking off to the side here, is the caret apple A. There we go. So that is the keyboard shortcut for archive that will simulate that keystroke for us. Now that right there, let's think about that for just a second. This is already simpler. So I'm typing one keystroke in order to get this. Now, my concern is this may simulate this keystroke when I'm actually typing in a message, but it doesn't do that with delete. So I think I'm okay. But we will test this as we work through this. So let's try this one out. Let's stop sharing that and let's start sharing our Mail again. Oh, drag it over here. Let's go there. So if I do Y, that archived. Yep, absolutely. That was perfect. Y, we're going up and I want them to go down. I might want to read that. Let's do Y. There we go. And I can shift 3 here to delete. So I can easily switch back and forth. If I bring up a new message, which probably opened in a new window for you all, if I type in something else there, test. Yeah, I can type the letter Y and nothing weird or bad happens. So test complete. Okay, so that is one of the options that you can do. But as I mentioned, Keyboard Maestro is just so much more incredibly powerful than Text Expander is. So let me show you an option that you can't get to just by typing a keyboard shortcut, or you can't easily get to it just by typing a keyboard shortcut in Mail. So we'll bring Mail back up for just a second. Apologies for closing that, not thinking about that. And this is from my sister. We're making something for my nephew's birthday party this weekend. And there is an option under File to save attachments. You'll notice there's no keyboard shortcut out here for this. But in Keyboard Maestro, you actually can do this with a keyboard command or with a menu palette. So if I bring Keyboard Maestro back up, there you go. I have already started this one for you just so you can see it. So I've chosen the keyboard command Control Command A for this. It will run select save attachments in the menu File in the front application. And I want to show you this for a couple of reasons. First of all, it just starts to give you an idea of how much more powerful Keyboard Maestro is. One of the other things you can do with Keyboard Maestro is you can comment in it. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can comment in it. One is the way I've always been doing it. The other one is one that my friend Brian showed me today because he just happens to be well-timed to these things. So we are going to add an action to this. My brain just turned off for a second. We're going to add a comment action. And I actually want it to be up here, so I'm just going to drag it. And that's one of the things about Keyboard Maestro. They are kind of like building blocks. You can move them around as you want. And so I can give this a title, the purpose of this macro. So this macro will will click, select the File menu, and then the Save Attachments option with a single click of the command palette or with the keyboard shortcut in the hotkey box above. Okay, so that is one of the things you really should do with automations is comment them. And Keyboard Maestro provides you ways to do that. So you can do it here in their comment box, which I like. You can also color these boxes differently. So I actually like to color my comments yellow and the actual actions that I'm taking as typically this aqua color, just so I can sort of keep an eye on them. And I'll show you one of my favorite ones. I'll show you that in a second. Let me show you the other one that Brian showed me this morning, which is you can come right here and you can actually rename. So that you could rename each line item without having to put the comment. So selects save attachments from file menu after clicking from shortcut or palette. They get too long, you can't read them. So if you do hover over them, I think, nope, that just deletes it. I thought you could see it if you hovered over it. But anyway, so this is an option here, and I'm going to leave this in the mail menu just to make it very, very clean to see how it works. Let me show you what this coloring looks like, though, in another macro. My setups are one of my favorite ones. And you can see I've got some different colors here to show different things that it's doing for me. Lots of comments. Oops, I didn't color that one yellow. Try to do that. But again, as you find things in your automations, you can always improve them. All right, so let's test out that save attachments automation in our mail application. All right, so we're going to, I'm going to actually use the Keyboard Maestro Save Attachments option here. So I'm going to click it in my command palette, which I don't think you can see. And in fact, let's actually share the whole window so that I know that you can see it. Entire screen. We're going to share screen 2, which is only going to be super annoying for a second because you're going to see lots of me. There we go. Hopefully now you're seeing the mail window. I can't check that. I'm going to hope that that is the case. And so now you should see this little conflict palette right here. And if I go to save attachments, it is opening that up. It's asking me where I want to put it. I actually want to put this in my downloads folder, and I'm going to hit save. And now if I bring my downloads folder up, hopefully my full page of practice train cars is right there. So makes that a lot quicker as I'm working through it. It makes it much easier to see as I am working on that. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today. Whoever my 2 intrepid folks were, maybe by next week when I do this again, I will learn how to see who's on with me. But if not, drop a note or send me an email so that I know you were here with me today. I hope this was useful to you and valuable. I welcome your questions. I welcome your feedback. And I'm just trying to learn in public and get better and help others automate as well. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.